Hey everybody, welcome to the developer stream here for Quake Champions. I'm Joshua Boyle, Tokyo Punch-Out. To my left, God, that's weird because the screen's pointing the other way.
Yeah. Right. Adam Pyle, I'm design manager. You know me.
I'm Andre Carlos, Mortal Emperor, the other community manager for Quake Champions.
That's right. So, first of all, thanks for joining us today. As always, we wanted to get into, we sort of touched on it a little bit on the community stream last week, but the January update, we wanted to actually show people like exactly what hitbox changes happened, like for real, instead of just for talk.
Yeah.
So
For real, not play.
not for play. It's not for play this time. So we've actually got a video ready for you guys that I think we can roll up here in a second. Let's roll it.
For competition.
No.
So when we went to Quake Live, we decided to change that.
In Quake Live, we actually switched to a cylindrical model. So in that, there is less extraneous hits, and actually as Quake Live went on, it got tighter and tighter to the model, which brought us to where we started in Quake Champions.
Right. So we knew going into Quake Champions, we wanted to make it a competitive game. The idea behind it was to get the hitboxes as tight to the model as possible. So what we did was we had basically a low polygon version of the mesh drawn on top of the model. And the idea was that wherever the model was, you could hit. Wherever it wasn't, you couldn't hit. The problem was, this was difficult to hit. It just wasn't fun. So we decided, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and see what we can come up with.
Yeah. So what we did is we actually moved to sphere and capsule hitboxes. So easiest way to imagine it is there's a sphere for a head and then capsules for every part of your body that we're able to expand and contract based on the model. But think about a headshot with a rail. That's landing, it's basically just registering, did it hit that sphere, yes or no? Okay, great job. Next.
So it used to be that you would have to go and say to an artist on the team, I want to change the hitbox.
Yeah.
They would have to go in and edit the mesh by hand. Now with the new system, a designer can go back to their desk and say, I think Nyx needs to be a little bit more hittable.
Yeah.
They can enter a few numbers, go in and test those changes immediately. And we can actually roll them out in every update if need be.
Yeah. If you think about a light champion, we're basically padding them out to be as hittable as a medium champion standing still. The medium champions get a little bit of light padding, and then the heaviest champions now are basically almost to the model.
We've actually done some network improvements to support these hitbox changes. So now, all weapon and ability hits are detected client-side. What this means is that if you see it hit on your client, in your game, in general, it is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
The server still needs to check and say, hey, is that cool? Did that happen?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's a much more forgiving system. You shouldn't see any more of the misdamage rockets. But yeah, we're going to be rolling out a Phase 2 version of that in the future. So look forward to that, and it should improve even further from what it is now.
Exactly. So thank you guys as always for joining us. We're going to do some more of these development diaries in the future, so hope to see you then. And until then, we'll be listening to you guys as always on Bethesda's forums, on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, all over the world. Discord, you ever heard of that? Everywhere. And until then, we'll see you guys in the arena. So yeah, there we go. We actually got to see some hitboxes IRL.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, I think, from the update. So
Not for me.
No, obviously not for you.
day in, day out, you're staring at those capsules, staring at the spheres. You see them in your dreams.
Yeah, I actually get them all the time when I play. Like, I just get to play with them on.
Oh
Really?
damn!
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh, man,
Cheating!
no.
He's cheating, guys.
Just kidding.
When we play, your back is to me, so I can't. Like,
Yeah.
You can't see a
I
screen.
can't see. Maybe
No.
you're like.
But
Yeah.
after doing this, do you
No
walk
dev,
out?
no dev hacks.
Do you walk out on the street like you go to like 7-Eleven? You just see everybody and you're like, okay, I'd pad him out a little bit more. This guy's a little bit heavier, so it goes right down to his model. Is it?
No, that's really judgy.
Okay,
That's
fair.
That's kind of
That's fair.
that's weird too.
I guess that's less natural than it would seem. I just feel like if you're in it all day, you're just like, I just see hitboxes on everything.
It's not the Matrix, man.
No, but what I do, like, all the time I go around places, I look at, like, architectural pieces, and I go, oh, that would be awesome in a map, and
Nice.
take pictures of it, because that's kind of work it in.
Yeah.
But I love architecture, so that's kind of natural.
That makes sense. And like, what better to be inspired by than like what you actually like can physically visit and see around and be like, this would be really rad. Let's get more scones in there. Sconches.
Sconces.
Yeah,
Sconces.
and a lot of universities will have like really brutal like 1970s architecture.
Yeah.
A lot of that looks like a Quake map.
That's true.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a bit about why we implemented the hitbox changes for people out there who don't know, might be just coming into Quake Champions and being like, what is this whole deal with hitboxes? And obviously we talked a little about it with the video, but
Yeah, it's just about feeling good, really. I think you touched on it a bit in the video that with Quake Live, especially, we got into a period of time where we were just trying to make it like as competitive as possible and got tighter and tighter, and we thought that made sense. But even then, we had like players come up and say, hey, really, I preferred the game a couple updates ago or a year ago when it was easier to get rail hits, and we were just like, get good.
Get good, scrub.
And I think that what we learned over time, many years, was that that's not necessarily the best goal. That you need to have a very good field of weapons, like we always have.
Yeah.
And part of that is that consistency of if you have a target on your crosshair or near it, like if you feel like it should be a hit, it should be a hit. And so what we wanted to do was really fine tune that experience more than anything else, and then from there you can tweak a whole bunch of other stuff in the game to make it like a super great competitive shooter.
Yeah.
But if you're not hitting when you think you should, then it's never going to feel great.
That's true.
And so like we had pointed out, like you could shoot, whether it's even between the legs or even just like too close to them, like grazing there over the shoulder. If it was a slower paced game and people were moving at a slow pace, then you might be able to do that.
Right.
But when they move so fast, you can't discern like really where the shot was. You have to go back, watch a video, slow mo, and then like also make judges at that point. Like, well, are they like running into the effects of the beam, or and that's not what you want. What you want is you want to have someone in your crosshair, you want to fire, and you hit them and feel good.
Yeah.
So that's like the goal. And a lot of the cool things we have with the new system isn't just like, hey, we can pat them out, or we can kind of tweak it how we want. There's some stuff we've done that, like you can spot in that video that we don't really talk about, but like it's not just putting like a capsule like from your elbow to your hand.
Yeah.
We can attach them to any joints we want. It's like some things we do is like we put like capsules from like foot to foot, like ankle to ankle, things like that to fill in gaps. It also allows us to like offset them, so like when someone jumps, like we can put additional padding underneath them if we want. Because
that's cool.
Another thing that felt really bad was like when someone would jump, like especially Doom,
Yeah.
You'd fire like just under his feet. It would look like you're hitting him, but he just like went above the beam.
Yeah.
And so we learned that we actually want to have like a little bit of space, like a little offset down,
To
so
pad
that
it.
yeah. And then that's where we kind of got now. We have a couple champions we're going to tweak in a future update. Just like we're saying, like that's one of the advantages of the system is that we can now tweak this ourselves. So we found that like Galena's a little thin.
Yeah.
And so we're going to pad her out a little bit more. We found two places where they're not holes, but we felt that we wanted to have a little bit of extra volume there. So we're going to continue to tweak it in the updates moving forward. But like we're pretty happy with the system we got in place.
Yeah. And I mean, from everything we've heard around the community that you guys have been telling us, I mean, I haven't heard a single complaint. Of course, everybody wants to get they want to dive deep into like X character versus X character, but that's more about like balance rather than hitboxes. I haven't heard anyone say, "Yo, I didn't get I shot between Sorlag's legs, I didn't get a hit, or I shot like this shoulder." It's like across the board, it seems like.
I think the best post I saw after the January update was this post on Reddit where it was literally just like, "Take that, Anarchy! Like I hit you! Like my rails are hitting!
Yeah.
All caps.
Yeah.
Anarchy's hittable, more so.
I mean, speaking of the champions individually, like that's all the hitboxes, but there were some balance changes that happened too in the January update.
Yeah,
A little bit about those.
I think there were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
a few.
no, there was a few. Some of them were. It's interesting. I think that some were, like the community had some concerns about it when it came out, and then those kind of not proved out, and then other ones were obvious and worked out. So like Sorlag, there was like some improvements to her where everyone was like really worried she was going to be overpowered. I think she's strong but not overpowered right now. We can all debate that, but I mean, yeah, she's one of those champions that does have that high damage output right in your face.
Yeah.
Stay away from her is
Right.
the advice, but I think that worked out because people over time learned, the hitbox has made such a difference that she's easy to hit. You can melt her.
Right.
So even though she's doing a little bit more damage, she's much easier to hit now.
True.
Glena's where we saw, a big improvement. We wanted to increase the amount of time she was picked, and to kind of get her in the play pool more. And that was really successful.
Yeah.
The totem's doing more damage. She's kind of made it into the play. I'm really happy right now in general that most of the gameplay is really diverse compared to where it was in December and prior.
Yeah.
So before, in every month we'd have different shifts in like the meta where, it's going to be these two in the top tier.
Yeah.
And right now I feel like, you're always going to have a top tier, but right now we have way more champions being picked and played,
True.
which is a good thing. That's happening across the board.
Yeah.
Like, we're seeing a lot more play from Visor than we ever did, a lot more play from Glena.
Even-
And this isn't just happening in Duel, it's happening in the team modes.
Definitely.
And I guess I'll wait for going forward stuff, but like in general, like one thing we'll also be doing is giving some feature tweaks to champions to help them in team modes a little bit, play more team roles. So there'll be Glena, the improvements we did in January were designed more for her offensive combat, making her she can get around the map easier and do more damage with totems, but we also want to eventually make her a better team player.
Yeah.
So.
Because she, what she can offer with that health pool, especially on certain maps, and especially in 2v2, is, invaluable, right?
Yeah.
On certain maps where, health is really spread out or not that plentiful, it's we were playing a lot of 2v2s in the office just yesterday, and it's the thing that's so funny to me, too, is, I still see people get salty hitting the totem, and it's you saw the totem or you went through a teleporter.
Yeah, and
that's on you.
And that's just the fact that if you know that your enemy's playing Glena, that you take a risk going through a teleporter. Exactly. There are other routes to take.
There's always another route to take.
You could take a jump pad, rocket jump, or you can make sure you have that stack and you can take that risk.
Right.
And you can try to pay attention during the match to gauge whether she had a totem to put down there.
Yeah.
So, which is something people are starting to do, but I think early on people didn't focus on as much. It's she laid down a totem, it's really going to be this amount of time before she can put another one down if I can keep her away from the cooldowns.
Yeah.
And if you choose not to guard those areas with cooldowns, then you know that, hey, then it's going to be back in half the speed.
I think that is a little bit of learning and growing pains a little bit, because since she has been updated, and as you said, more people are playing her now than
people get more
previously.
exposure to her.
Like previously,
That's
when
true.
did you see Galena on Lockbox?
Right.
Lockbox, Galena, done deal.
Yeah.
Anywhere else, you probably wouldn't see her that much, right?
Yeah.
But now she's she's in Sarnath, she's in Blood Covenant, she's in Burial Chamber. Anywhere you can play her anywhere.
Yeah.
And now people are having to think, oh, there might be a Galena here. I need to know what I need to do to get around her and counter her or avoid the totems.
But that's my favorite thing about champions in this game in general is every single champion that's a different pick than the standard of if people are just all playing the same two champions, it always makes every game there's more depth, it's more interesting. Right. You have to do more as a player, and that's the heavy lifting is what makes it fun, I think. Instead of it basically being, everybody's ranger, so everyone's dire.
Well, it's what makes the play experience different every time
Yeah.
for us, which I think is important in a game where, you're just responding and fighting, and if you take out all those elements, it just becomes monotonous, becomes that.
Yeah.
To a degree, and I think that brings a lot to it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Different cool moments every time.
For sure. Yeah. Speaking of which, I think we had to mention Clutch just in the sense that I think a lot of people have been showing us videos, and of course, we're watching all the tournaments and everything anyway, so we see this stuff. But Clutch has got the shield, which lasts for a while. He's got a huge stack, as he always had, and his dash plus the fact that he has an offensive ability with the beam,
infinite range,
his mining laser that's just crazy range. I mean.
Oh, we're talking about the character that in the summer no one thought would ever be
exactly,
playable or be any good?
Yeah.
Is that
the why would anybody pick
Is that the one we're talking
Robot?
about? Oh, okay. The refrigerator?
The fridge that nobody picked, yeah.
Yeah, no. No, he's fine, right? No, I'm just kidding. No, Clutch really, for the most part, is, I'm not worried about Clutch, and he's fine, but that's totally in the context of, we know what we're doing with him.
Right.
And so that's, I guess, why it's good to bring it up. In December, we made changes to him then that were hey, let's take the dodge from being on a cooldown cycle
Yeah.
to being like you can do it once every time you're in the air, and you can do it on the ground. So that we wanted to give consistency and reliability in doing the dodge, because there was a problem before where sometimes like you would do the dodge and wouldn't do it because you were within that cooldown period and you had no way to gauge it. You had to like get a good feel for it. So it was really difficult to use. So like one thing we liked was that Doom's really straightforward.
Yeah.
Like Doom, you know that if you jump, you can
get
double
one more.
jump.
Right.
Yeah. And so we kind of did the same thing with Clutch. We're like, hey, if you jump, you can dodge.
Yeah.
And that's great. But also when we designed it, there were at least 2 key components to it that we hadn't implemented yet, which was like we were going to put a max speed on the dodge so that he tied a top out.
Mm-hmm.
Because the dodge is an additive, which in gaming terms, it's applying a velocity on top of your current speed, so you're always getting faster when you do it.
Right.
It's not just making you go a set speed. So every time you dodge, you go faster. Obviously, there's a problem there. But we knew that we were going to address that. We were going to stick in a top speed, but we didn't have that coded yet. That wasn't a parameter in there. So we're working towards that, so we're going to add in a max speed so that we can have him basically behave like he does now, but then we can control how fast he goes so he doesn't, be launching off at 1,800, off or something.
Off the stair, right?
Yeah. The stairs is actually, we can address, almost address with a different way as well, and we're going to do that. Adding a little small delay so that when you go up a step and it sets you back on the ground, you can't just immediately re-dodge again.
Yeah.
So, I have that change here on our internal stuff right now so that you can't do the stair exploit, which people are, primarily doing like stick and jump on their mouse wheel and just spamming jumps.
Scrolling it. Yeah.
So, that's easy to fix, and
Yeah.
then the top speed's easy to fix too. Once we do those things, then that will make a huge difference for Clutch.
Yeah.
There's still other things to be worried about. I know that people are like, oh, he's still really fast. He can press on with you with the shield, and he has that big stack. I like those things about him. I like because that's the character.
Right.
And I don't mean character as in just like lore. I mean, I think that's like the role. That's a cool role, like an aggressive character where he can kind of rush in when he has the time.
Yeah.
You wait for that shield, and then now I push in. That's cool to have. But obviously, there's some abuses with the mining drill.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it never was implemented the way I really wanted, and I think I'm going to work towards going with my original design, which maybe not. We'll see. But my original design was that we had one pull of time that you split between the shield and the mining drill, so that you had to actually
prioritize.
Yeah, instead right now you can get the best of both. Like you can use the full shield, wait till you're right about to end, and then use the full mining drill. And I'd rather not have that.
Yeah.
I'd rather if you use the shield for a while, you're not going to get the drill for very long.
Right.
That's one always thing that we can do. Another thing is that the drill right now is doing the same damage per hit as the LG,
Right.
but it actually has a slightly faster rate of fire.
To not know that.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, no one knew that. But you know that now. So
Knowledge. It's power.
we'll tweak that going forward as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll make it just like the LG, but basically we'll find a balance between previously his drill was doing 5 damage, and everyone's like, oh, it's 100 DPS, and it was worthless. No one was using it except for a few players. I know that there's some good uses in Sacrifice. People learned how to use it at a distance. I mean, Dehane got really good with it. Saw it a lot on his stream, and I think just we need to find the balance between where we were and where we are now.
Yeah.
And the Clutch will be fine.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people watching duels right now are getting really kind of tired of Clutch or worried about him, oh my god, he doesn't belong in the game. And the thing is, every champion is just a whole bunch of knobs.
Yeah.
Everybody belongs in the game. You just got to get the right setting, and there's no reason we can't do that.
Exactly, because I think people are like, oh no, his shield is too long, but it's look, that number is adjustable. It's not like it's always it's not like we're set here and we're like, this is a good place, he lives here forever.
We're in early access for a good reason,
Yeah.
And it's not just you try stuff and it's wrong, we need to rebalance. We try things for the reasons of getting data, so we know how far we need to go.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
It's like swinging the pendulum. You swing it
yeah,
one way, figure out where it is, and then
basically a lot of the settings we use, we know that they're not going to be the ones we stick with.
Right.
But it helps us know, how far do we need to push it before it changes the data, how many people are playing him, how often he's winning, and we know how much time we have like on early access to like test these things.
Yeah.
And it's really important to do that. So it's
Yeah.
a big part of getting a good balance is trying out stuff, getting good data, so that we get there in the end.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll just go ahead and mention related to all that is that I know that there's a lot of talk about also like, oh, it's really difficult to balance champions, like every champion for every mode.
Right.
And we've talked about this before, but I mean, I just want to get the message out there again that I feel like we can do a really good job balancing the game.
Yeah.
But people shouldn't necessarily confuse that with every champion has to be top tier
Right.
in every mode. Like
That's true.
There's no reason we need that. We're perfectly fine with, these 3 to 5 champions being really good in duel. These 3 to 5 champions being really good in sacrifice. We have ones that are going to play really well in CTF, and it's okay to have champions that are like your expected picks, and the ones that are like, oh wow, they picked so and so. That's not like surprising pick. We don't see
Right.
that very often.
Yeah.
That creates like really cool moments because when you have a player that takes the one that isn't played often and then does really well with them,
Yeah. Then they create a whole new thing.
and then other players don't know how to play against it because they're not
Right.
used to it. Like that is great.
Yeah.
So there's no reason like people should be expecting us to go, oh, we need this character to be awesome in duel and in team play. Like
Yeah.
that's not our goal. I think we have champions that we do want to have better in team play
Yeah.
than in duel, and that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, just to prove that, like, 3 months ago, nobody was talking about Clutch at all.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he enters in Duel, and Dehang shows the world basically how to push with him, how to do, because, at its onset, it's like,
Yeah,
you got a giant hitbox floating around. Like, that seems like a bad idea in Duel.
I think that was North America showing Europe how we play. And I don't mean that as like no, that's not like a
drop.
snarky mic drop
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's literally like a lot of North American players were using Clutch and playing in that way
Mm-hmm.
and being successful. And I feel like in Europe, Clutch was used a lot early on.
Yeah.
There was a time period where like you had the whole Cooler and Agent like really pressing with Clutch like before the World Championships.
Yeah.
But then from like early access on, like not many people have been playing with Clutch.
Right.
I know that's a generalization, but compared to
Yeah.
North America, they
Yeah.
were. And so I was actually surprised at QuakeCon. I was expecting more of it at QuakeCon. It didn't really happen in gameplay until like we got to our DreamHack Winter and such. And once we started to see it there, I was kind of surprised that North America was the only one doing it. But I think that's one reason why. I don't want to take away from Dehang. I mean that I think that Dehang showed them a play style that they weren't used to,
Yeah.
and didn't know how to counter or adjust for.
Yeah.
Plus, he's damn good.
Yeah.
But like that combination just really helped him dominate. I think.
Yeah. And that is, again, like, my favorite reason why we have champions is because you can get,
It's the
like,
thing
the
you love
game
to
evolving
see.
that way.
Like Adam said, it's that pick that you didn't expect.
Right.
And you see that come out and do well, and it's like, and sometimes it's you don't know the counter to it,
Right.
and it's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't believe you picked that, and the mastery of that champion, having played with that champion for so long, sort of not in secret, but just like not on the other side of the pond,
Right.
seeing it too,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, that's really viable.
Yeah.
All that being said, also I think that ultimately Clutch probably will have a bigger role in team play, but that doesn't mean that he won't still be one of those good dueling characters. Like he may be in the top 3,
Yeah.
but he'll probably be like in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And that's probably where he belongs. I think that duel we found like it's really fun to play and watch when the main picks are like the medium weight characters,
Yeah.
and then the lights and heavies are kind of your viable but like the one off thing.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a few champions that are just like doesn't make as much sense.
I agree, though.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of which, what was I going to say? We were going to get into, we've all grown up playing Instagib. Instagib's something we always wanted, obviously, in Quake Champions, but the biggest thing that I was surprised at, personally, was, of course, like, are we going to have abilities, or are we not going to have abilities?
Both? No. So we've been playtesting both, and right now it's kind of was surprising to us, but good that it's actually a little bit more fun right now with abilities.
Yeah.
Which is, I think people need to play before they understand why. Maybe I can describe it a bit though. But we're going to have abilities in Instagib for our like standard quick play playlist or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're also introducing this like no ability, like kind of disable checkbox mode thing in custom games. So
Right.
if you want to go play it without abilities, you can go do that.
And that's across all game modes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll talk about it a little bit more. But yeah, that
Yeah.
no ability mode is literally just like an option
Yeah.
that you set independent of the game mode. So you can play any mode and you can turn off abilities. But literally, it's just turning off the ability. You know,
Yeah.
you still have the champion that has like their different like movement mechanics and passives and
Stack and everything, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you know, your Doom's still going to double jump. He
Right.
just doesn't have the berserk. So
Yeah. Which in Instagame makes him basically like a
a
flying
floating
target.
target.
It's
yeah.
the worst. Yeah.
Trust
me, it's hard.
And so in Instagib or Instajib, I don't know if we're going to.
Either or.
I-
It's chat. It's up to you.
No, everyone in the world growing up knows it's Instagib, even though that it doesn't make sense.
Yes. Thank you.
So it's officially Instajib,
Thank you.
but everyone knows it's Instagib.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
care.
Instagib.
I don't even care anymore.
I'm gonna carry the torch for Instagram.
No, but what I was getting at is that without the abilities,
Yeah.
it's not as much fun because there still are those differences of the champions.
Right.
And so I think that someday, you know, we'll get to where we have, you know, a way for people to like just play as one champion. And in that situation, it might be better, definitely. Like go, hey, let's play without ability and just run around as one character and kind of reproduce that old Instagib style.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it works in our game, like for the main playlist, like the abilities are great.
Yeah.
And it's not as straightforward as you think. Like you have, you know, the lights sound like they're going to be a huge advantage, but then when you have characters that have their abilities, it's like, well, it creates these like fun dynamics.
Like Anarchy's is nothing.
Anarchist is nothing. I mean, he heals himself, and that doesn't do you
He's
anything.
a little bit
He's
speed
already
boost,
dead.
but-
You can't. You
and
can't come back and like
he
resurrect.
gets a little bit of speed boost, but that doesn't do much anymore even.
Right.
So, you know, he's a bit of a target. Slash is still nice, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, she's kind of there on the ground. You can rail her, but
Yeah.
I prefer to play Visor myself because you could. I mean,
Yeah, Visor is
like,
the champion.
think about Visor and Instagib. It's like, okay, I can use a wall hack and I see them coming, and that's all I need.
It's the most
and I'm,
OP
you know, I'm
ability.
either coming out on first or second in all the matches, and I'm almost exclusively playing him now.
Yeah.
Plus, he just feels good to run around with. But we've seen a lot of people being successful with different champions.
It's true.
And the way we handle the abilities is like direct hits
Yeah.
deal instant damage. So if like the acid spit directly hits you,
Yeah.
it kills you.
It's basically the same
like a
as
die
everyone.
orb can like instant hit you and kill you. Yeah.
Right.
But like spit on the ground is like considered like environmental damage,
Mhm.
and so it doesn't do that instant damage.
It still has
It'd be-
the lasting effect.
Yeah,
like
it's
damage
the-
over time.
Yeah, but it's you take normal damage, but obviously that doesn't matter unless you plan on living for minutes
Right.
and then you slowly lose health.
Because there's no health to get in the
Yeah,
map.
there's no.
Yeah,
no
so
pickups.
there's no pickups.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as like there being like lava rust on the ground
Yeah.
right now. So that kind of makes sense. So if there's any sort of environmental stuff, then it just does like a normal damage, and you can kind of ignore it.
Yeah.
Because generally your lifetime is much shorter in this job anyways. You're just trying to stay alive to, you know, get good 5-6 kill run or something if you
Yeah.
can.
Exactly.
It's really fun, and then you can try all these different characters. Like for instance, like Clutch is a really good example of like communities like Clutch would be stupid in this jib because you
And
can
he's
get
so good.
railed by anybody.
Yeah.
You can, but then 30 seconds later you can use a mining drill and wipe
Yeah,
everybody
the
out.
mining
Right.
laser in.
Mining laser's one shot kill, so just like you just draw like all over the map where you see people. and
Yeah,
they're
it's
dead.
amazing.
amazing.
It is amazing. Clutch will be the character that you play to prove that you're good.
Right.
Because
Because
yeah,
you're the
you can.
biggest hitbox.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
We like to play him here, but it's going to be the thing where, yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to get railed a lot as
Yeah.
Clutch, but then when you get your ability up, it's like, bam, you got a shield, no one can hit me. Move to a drill, and you're just wiping everybody out.
How about Slash and her trail? How does that work in?
Yeah, so you know how she has the 2-stage,
Mhm.
where basically you can press it once and you can skate around
okay.
and put the trail down, then you can do it again for the explosion.
Yeah.
The explosion is that like direct instant damage that wants to kill,
Okay.
and the trail itself just is environmental. So anything on the ground is
Okay.
environment. So the trail's not going to paint a big area that people just like walk across and instantly
Just
die.
Yeah.
We did try that. Not that it was necessarily a good idea, but we did
Yeah.
try it because you know, we wanted to find out how to work with everything. And the big problem was like you could paint over like spawn points and teleporter exits, and
Yeah.
and it was just so frustrating, like spawning in and dying on our trail. So of course that doesn't do any damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it does the normal damage, which
Just
is
the
a little small
environmental.
tick. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. Like, again, our preconception was like, okay, abilities are going to be weird in Instagib, and like, do they need it? And when we turned it off and we played, it's not fun without abilities. Like, because at that point, it's like, well, why isn't everybody exactly the same character, exactly the same stat? Because with everyone with different, hitbox sizes and speeds and abilities, it makes a lot of sense because again, you've got like the diversity and the depth. But without that, when you took the abilities off, it was just like, ugh, like. Definitely never play Clutch. Definitely never play Scale Bearer.
And I think
Kills
that's
a
a
bad
differentiation, right? Like, we've had these really cool moments where we're playing in Instagib, and we throw like abilities out, and they're hilarious and fun.
Yeah.
But if players out there, might want to play classic style, quote unquote, Instagib, you can set up a custom game. You can run with 7 of your friends and click that checkbox and turn everything off.
Yeah.
So you really get best of both worlds that way.
But I think that's like the main thing, right? Is Instagib was always supposed to be. I mean, it's aim practice, but it's supposed to be
casual mode.
fun and silly.
Yeah.
And like when you took away abilities,
Yeah,
you got
just-
less of the fun and silly.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right?
Yeah, that's right. It's totally. It's like for the mode to really work, you just have to be relaxed, have fun,
Yeah.
not take it too serious. And we found that like it just adds like really fun moments.
Yeah.
And makes it hilarious and kind of it makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, as we said, we covered no abilities. It's basically custom game only right now, and you can play any mode. So you can turn abilities off for SAC, upcoming Instagib, TDM, deathmatch, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to get into. I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, so you can take any direction you want. Like people ask us all the time about, you guys have talked previously on other dev streams about like a new duel mode, like what's the duel meta, like.
Or like how you feel about the meta currently.
Exactly. Because,
Well, that sounds like two different topics.
it is. That's why I kind of wanted to give you whichever one you wanted.
Well, I mean, I think on the meta, it's harder for me to come up much more because I'm always looking ahead
Yeah.
at like where we're going, and the meta's always about where you are now, which is important to look at. But like we've already kind of dove into that a bit. Like I feel really good that we have a lot of people being chosen. We kind of got out of that rut of it being like Anarchy,
Sorlag,
Nyx,
Anarchy.
Ranger, or Sorlag, like,
Yeah.
and now you see like Visors and Glenas and Clutches, and without taking away, like Nyx is still the top pick.
Right.
Ranger's still super not just viable, but like he's a beast.
Yeah.
And I love where we're at with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, the things that are not ideal right now, like the little things of, someone's, being a little too hard to hit with movement or clutch. Those are so easy to address.
Yeah.
That overall, I'm just like really happy right now. I know that everyone's gonna be like wanting to see those changes.
Yeah.
And so they won't be happy until we get updates out.
Right.
But the thing is, I know where we're going, where we'll be. So
Yeah.
that'll be taken care of. As far as the dual mode itself, I'd love to see us, trying out other modes.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. We want to experiment with that, and we will. Internally, we really just put the focus though right now on the modes that people have been asking for with the CTF.
Yep.
There's big desires for CTF and Clan Arena, and then we're like experiment with these little kind of fun casual modes like we did with Instagib that didn't take a lot of time, that you could kind of almost do on the side and get like a big win for.
Yeah.
So the dual changes will come,
Yeah.
but right now we're trying to get like partiers in like CTF.
Yeah.
And when we think about like why,
Mhm.
because like we know that basically we've had enough time in duel that we know that we at least want to try a change.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we also want to have like a new kind of, if not focus, like a little new mini era on team modes. So like we're going to be rolling out 2v2,
Yep.
which, we moved our competitions over, like we had ESL switch their cups over to 2v2,
Yeah, I saw that.
whether that was November, December, whenever we started that.
Mhm.
And the 2v2 ranks coming out, and then after that, we'll also be getting into like CTF and the other stuff we're trying to do. And I think it's really important to get those in the game because it's a completely new thing
Yeah.
that appeals to a different audience. Lets us do like more interesting things with some of the champions, And I think it's really important to get a mode where people can play at a little different pace.
Yeah.
And if we focus on duel right now, that's not going to change that. Like,
Right.
moving from a round-based duel to like one time limit, whether it's like one champion, 3 champions, or whatever things we go for,
Yeah.
that's just going to kind of alter the duel scene.
Yeah.
But I think what we need more right now is having like a really successful team mode that anybody can feel like they can come play.
Yeah.
And like, while CTF may not be a silver bullet, like one thing it does is, you can come in, and if you don't know the mode or you don't know the maps or you're new to the champions in general, you can always like hang out in a base
Yeah.
and defend a flag, and you know that you're helping your team and you have that objective there. Like, hey, I'm not very good. I'm not going to run out in the middle of that map and get slaughtered, or
Right.
I'm not good enough to go steal the flag, but I can sit in this base
Yeah.
and take my time learning the game. And we don't have a mode like that right now.
Right.
Sacrifice is a really fun mode for our pro players, and I wish that more casuals like it, but like not many people are playing it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons was that it was intimidating. It was intimidating because with only having one ball, like it was great for spectating.
Yeah.
That you could follow that one object,
Right.
but it also meant that you had everyone in the server in one spot fighting over it.
Yeah.
And so it's constant action.
Mhm.
It's intimidating because you have all your enemies in the room on you at that one time, whether you have possession or not. Like,
Right.
all the action just follows it.
Yeah.
For instance, if the soul went to the enemy base
Yeah.
and they're like racking up their time,
Right.
and you were sitting back at your obelisk,
Yeah.
just sitting there doing nothing,
And
Yeah.
you're not helping your
You
team.
can't leave somebody behind.
So you can't
on
do that. You like with CTF where you can sit in your base, you're actually still
It's
helping
true.
your team.
Yeah, SAC has
So-
more of like that snowball effect where it's like you get caught up in the snowball and it's like you
You
have
have
to
yeah.
to
stay
send.
in
You
it.
have to send.
So
4 people
CTF,
out.
I think that
So-
sacrifice is great.
Yeah, love
But it just doesn't solve all the problems we need with that type of mode.
it. To get
Right.
new people
Um,
in, especially. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
CTF may not by itself either, but
Right.
that's why we're making different modes and trying different things. And I think that's really important and probably more important for us. So we're focusing on that.
Yeah.
And then we'll eventually get to the duel stuff.
Yeah.
That was a really long-winded answer
No,
to
it's
it.
perfect.
That was
But I
great.
think it was worth
It's a good
talking about
overview,
because
though.
it
Yeah.
explains like some of our current priorities and where we're going and why we're working on different modes.
Yeah.
Because ideally you don't want to spread the community thin with a whole bunch of modes.
Yeah.
And that's actually not what we're going to do. Even though we're making a lot of modes and trying stuff, even if those modes stick around where you can play them,
Yeah.
the goal is to eventually box these into a couple of big playlists.
Right.
And so, if you go into a playlist, there might be multiple modes in there.
Mhm.
But rather than like individually selecting and dividing the players amongst all these modes,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, this is the game. We have all these modes. If you click quick play, you're going to go put into a server, and it may be a different mode.
Yeah.
And then, over time we can get to where maybe between maps, like you could vote to different modes or some mechanic to kind of switch around.
That'd be cool.
Um, And I think that would be better for us.
yeah.
So
That
don't
makes
divide
sense.
the community, but
Right.
provide different options for them. And then in a custom game, you can play whatever you want.
Yeah. That makes sense because the challenge is always you add more modes, you're splitting up the community more and more with people that only play one mode versus the
Yeah.
other. So instead, putting them in a playlist where they can play, more than one,
Yeah.
so that they'll actually, like, we can populate all the lists and have like good games and better matchups across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense. Crouch Excel fixes, like again, like I've
I
seen.
know you
stuff,
said before that they're going to be
Yeah.
fixed,
like,
but
because
just
how
to
do you feel
confirm
about
on
that?
screen.
Because like sometimes I've seen people do stuff like like with Solar Lag you can get like 500 speed, like almost like in one combination of moves, and it's like, is that a bad thing though? I'm not even sure if it is. I wanted to see your take on it.
I mean, getting up to a decent speed quick isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
There are bad things about the behaviors we see right now,
Right.
and we want to address those. I don't think it's even right to talk about like whether like you're going to keep some sort of crouch excel behavior. I don't want to even get into that. But like what we do know is that right now there's some from a combination of like bunny hop and forward excel.
Yeah.
We see a couple negative side effects,
Mhm.
and that's like one, some champions that have those passives, like when you hit a jump pad, they lose their air control,
Yeah.
and they like can't like air strafe off
Yeah.
of the pad, and that's not ideal. So
Right.
like we want to address that. And then on the flip side of that, you have the characters with the bunny hop that can abuse it with the crouch, where like in the air they're normally dead, but they hold crouch at the right time when they jump on the pad, then they can go flying.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, and so we want to fix that too.
Mhm.
I don't think it's quite as big of a deal as some people make out.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's enough to be annoying.
Yeah.
And it's not what I want. Like, we didn't design that crouch accel
To
selling
be
to
like
happen.
a mechanic that people to.
So the way I view it as like a developer is like, one, we fixed both the forward and crouch accel or the bunny hop from having any sort of like FPS dependent stuff, because
Yeah.
we're aware that there's some of that there on just those mechanics. So we'll get that fixed, and then we'll try to have the ideal behaviors from jump pads, which is like you can still air strafe off of them,
Yeah.
and like holding crouch doesn't like make you sensei lane.
Right.
The only part of it that I
Crossing.
like at all is that like the behavior we had with sword lag to begin with, like from the summer and on, was like you could hold forward, jump, and crouch at the same time, and do that hop. You could gain speed a little faster, but it also topped out where
Yeah.
that was ultimately slower than if
It's
you were
just-
doing it properly.
Right.
And so at that time, it was like more of like a helper mechanic. Like if you learned
Yeah.
about it, like it was like the easy way to do it.
Right. To gain speed quickly, but not as high top speed.
If we could fix all that other stuff and then keep that, then that's okay.
Okay, cool.
If we don't keep it, then that's fine too.
No, yeah.
So that's kind of the rundown on it. Like
Nice.
I'm more concerned about the two big issues with jump pads
Yeah.
than I am about like how fast you get from a start. I know that
From like bunny hop versus using crouch in that as
yeah.
well.
There's also other reasons why I'm not concerned about it. I'll go get into that. Why not?
Yeah.
So we're also still experimenting with like champion speeds a lot. We're going to do a test this afternoon actually for the changes I made like an hour ago. Where
I was just saying nice.
yeah, I mean we don't know if we're going to do it or not, but like
Yeah.
our current development goal for movement is actually let's let everybody have the same top speed.
Yeah.
And everyone have, if not the same starting speed, like closer together, like compressed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like maybe everyone's starting speed's like 320 or 310 or somewhere in that range between 300 and 320, and then like let's say everybody can get up to 800 or 1,000.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then from there, what you do is you decide how quickly they can get there, and then the second thing you decide is like does that slow down over time. So like
So it's more of an acceleration thing with
Yeah,
champions
so,
rather
like-
than
Yes.
by default everyone has like 1.0 Excel, which is the same thing we had in like Quake Live and Quake 3.
Yeah.
And like we could slow that down to make it take longer to get up to the top speed, or we can make it where it's not linear. Linear is bad to use for the acceleration; it's not proper. But we can make
I
it
guess
where
right now.
as you get faster, or as you're getting a higher speed, it takes more time to gain more speed.
Right.
We could absolutely do that, and that may be more interesting. And what it also will do is that when you get into a fight with another champion, almost regardless of whether they're a light or heavy,
Yeah.
they're not going to break away from you at a different rate.
I see
Where
what you
like
mean.
right now,
Anarchy, you just bounce.
yeah, like a lot of people right now aren't really comfortable with the fact that certain champions will just exit the room on you, and you have no chance to fight or counter.
Right.
We at least are going to experiment with that to find out like what's right. So we're going
I
to do
like
some
it.
tests of like getting everyone's speeds a little bit more uniform,
Yeah.
and then maybe kind of go from there. But
Nice.
if we do that, I'm like that starting like speed thing with Sword that's just a non-issue because we're
Yeah,
gonna
right,
be
exactly.
we're gonna be readjusting all of that anyways. Again, we're in early access. We're testing a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure.
Nice.
I think we've got
Yeah, we got to get some time.
we
in
got
for some
15
questions
minutes, so
here.
I think we
Yeah.
got to take some questions from the chat. I know chat's been
Yeah, popping off.
gabbing over there.
Let's see here.
See if we can get some-
We can talk about one thing while we're getting the questions
Sure.
fed to us. I want to bring up that XP stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we have two things coming for XP. One will be coming very soon. I don't know if it's the next update. Do you know if it's the next update?
I
It's
think
The
that it is.
XP, I believe it is. Yes.
So-
I think it is.
Last I heard. Yes.
So we're always developing like way ahead. So like a lot of the work that we do like won't make it into updates for a month or two. So I hope this is rolling out soon. But we have an XP boost coming out where we give you XP rewards for playing different modes.
Mhm.
So if you play a lot of team deathmatch and you haven't played Sacrifice, like we can offer you more XP to go play Sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's a way to earn more XP and also experiment and kind of play and be more diverse and play different modes.
You'll be able
Yeah.
to mouse over in the menu and see like this
Yeah.
is how much XP bonus. I'm
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
Which is
And then also eventually we're working towards having like a team party boost. So you play with friends and you get
That-
more XP.
It's really
And right now, if you play like on the live build, you'll see the little XP button that's at the bottom of
Right.
your party. And like, what's that
cool. The
for?
bottom left.
Well,
Where everybody's like, what does this do?
That's what that's for. You know, eventually, when you're in a party, that will light up and have little arrows above it and show you like, hey,
Like
you know,
how
you
much
have
you're getting.
you have like a boosted XP for
Mystery
playing with your party.
solved on that XP.
So that's what that is for.
Man, we're myth busting out here. Unlike yourself asks, new content, maps, champs, when? I mean, that's a fairly that's just like the when
that's
question, right?
That's kind of like
Yeah.
an always question. Right?
Yeah. It's an evergreen question.
Yeah.
I mean, from what we've seen and what we've done so far, it's, you know, the maps and the champs take an exhausting amount of testing, right?
Mhm.
So we roll them out as quickly as we possibly can, and Adam is always working on like 10 at a time, but it's like, you know,
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
have,
if we have exactly a time frame for any of
No,
that
no,
stuff,
no time frame. But like maps take. Yeah, we have a lot of maps in progress right now.
Yeah.
They're all moving along. It's not going to be like immediate,
Yeah.
because we still have a lot more to do on them. So they just need more time. Champions, you know, it's like we have champions coming. We've talked about, you know, having a lot of champions this year.
Yeah.
We're still, you know, an update cycle or two away from like, you know, having champions come out. We don't know when yet. But for instance, like we know that like the next update we're focused on things like rolling out like 2v2, rolling out Instagib. And then I didn't talk about weapon balances.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we're already into questions. But
Let me ask you a
Either
question.
of
What about weapon balance?
oh, that's a great question.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks,
So
Michael Punch.
my intention was for the next
Good
update to come out to actually be like a pass weapon balance,
Yeah.
and then the update after that, like we focus more on like another champion balance pass, and then after that we have updates where we get into content,
Cool.
where we could get into champions or something potentially.
Nice.
But in like the next update, the weapon balance stuff, there's like a few adjustments that we made kind of predicting before we got to have the last update out, and it all pretty much matches up with the feedback. So nail guns, we've reduced the knockback.
Yeah.
We've reduced the rate of fire on at least the starting
Nice,
nail gun,
nice.
so that
That's good.
the DPS is lower.
Because it was insane.
Um,
It was fun.
So no more spawning and running at people with the nail guns.
Yeah.
Just,
feel like
you know,
a-
it's still there, but we're definitely, you know, moving that needle and making that better.
Yeah.
The rocket splash has reduced slightly.
Okay.
I don't want to overstate that. It is
Yeah.
slight.
Okay.
But there's a little tweak there. Lightning gun, we had tweaks and then we reverted them, so I think lightning gun's staying the same.
Nice.
On the heavy machine gun,
It's getting a boost.
well, I don't know if I don't know. Yes,
Good.
but I don't know if that's the right word.
Okay.
So it's going to have the
tweak?
same damage per hit,
Okay.
but what we found was that the zoomed behavior
Nobody
was
uses
worthless.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
No one uses it.
Yeah.
The rate of fire was so slow.
The rate of fire was so slow.
Yeah.
So I kept the damage the same, increased the rate of fire. It still is a lower rate of fire than the unzoomed state.
Yeah.
And so what it actually is the exact same DPS whether you're zoomed or not.
Oh wow.
Cool.
That's cool. I like that.
So it fires slower, more damage, but it's the same DPS. And we found that was enough.
Yeah.
That I think it's great now.
Yeah.
We also actually, I gave one more damage on the starting machine gun. And I think that's good. Like, we were in a place where the nail gun was super dominant.
It was
trying to
OP.
take that down. We're basically trying to, like, kind of merge them.
Yeah.
There.
And the starting shotgun's always good, except I mean at range it's less so, but
That's
But
that's
that's
what
what it's
shotgun
supposed
is.
to be. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so it's good, you know, point blank. And you pretty much pick shotgun really just on what champion you are.
Yeah,
There's certain
exactly.
champions that you pick
that
shotgun
you
with,
want to
and,
push.
and
Yeah.
then otherwise you wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, nail gun's a little weaker, and then the machine's a little better.
Nice.
But the main things are really that we, you know, tweaked the nail guns and we did that little rocket tweak.
Yeah.
On the tri-bolt, I know people will be asking about that. I'll have a little caveat on this. There is a little boost to the tri-bolt, but it's kind of like, it may be like a temporary thing.
Okay.
Because we haven't made those tri-bolt changes yet.
Yeah.
And everyone's like asking like, why have you not made them yet? It's been like so many months.
Yeah.
It's because honestly, it's not a priority. We have so many like, good things in the pipe right now that we're working on that if we you wouldn't take a programmer off like these great features that we're working on to go work on a tri-bolt
Right.
when really the game's fine.
Yeah.
Like with that, like maybe the tri-bolt's not great, so what?
But even with the hitbox changes, I mean, I've seen people actually get, like, we were playing a game the other day, and he got 2 kills in a row with the tribal, and he was like, "Can I retire?" I was like, "I think that's it." Like,
It's the best feeling in the world to kill with a tribal.
It feels good when you do get a hit. So the things that happen with Tribolt is it has a slightly higher rate of fire,
Nice.
so it's a little faster.
I like that.
And there's a damage boost on, I guess, on when it explodes on the ground.
Okay.
Like the direct hit's the same.
Yeah.
Basically made it do the same damage because it was actually weaker of
On the ground?
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the ground. And so it's a little bit better,
cool.
but really that's just like a band-aid that will make it more useful
Yeah.
until we make those changes.
Nice.
And we'll do those later.
Cool. I was actually answering molecular beams.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I like this one from Tonti Amadillo, since we were talking about the thing with the bunny hop assist. Can you address the issue on bunny hop champs where the forward key stops working if you point it in any direction not parallel to it?
Yeah, except for right now it's disabled in my test. So
Oh.
I think that the best way to answer that is that we're working to get the best behaviors we can.
Yeah.
And so right now we know that there's some things that we're not ideal with it. That's like we're going back and recoding how some of those behaviors worked, and then we're going to decide like whether we want them or not. But like on my test today, like I've completely removed bunny hopping from everybody.
Okay.
We'll see.
Experiment, see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
Nice.
Playing around with it.
Tano9 says 2 months of crashes, fix it. We have actually put a lot of work and time into the current build, and we've even got a PTS rolled out specifically right now for anyone that's having the crash to desktop issue in particular. So if you have any problems, reach out to Mortal Emperor or myself, Tokyo Punch Out, on any forums or Reddit or Discord, anywhere.
Yeah,
and we'll get you
if
in.
If you're, we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
The PTS is rolling out. There are people on the PTS now. We're adding more people to it just so we can get more information and check in to make sure that the fix is resolving what it needs to fix, and we're have all hands on deck for that issue.
The important thing I wanted to make sure is noted is that the reason why it was difficult addressing the crash and why it's so important to reach out to you guys about the PTS is that the crash was occurring before a log was being created and dumped for that behavior. And so the build we have on PTS now, even if you still experience the issues, it will drop a crash dump that you can send to us so that we can fix it.
Yes. Right. And if you get that, please.
So if you're having the problem, don't just go, oh, well, they're probably getting crash dumps or support from other people. No. Reach out to us. Go log into the PTS so that we can get your information so we can address it for you.
Yeah, please.
That was what I was going to say too. Is like it's vitally important if you are on the PTS right now. If you get into the PTS, like send us that info when you get the crash dumps. Send us the behaviors that you're seeing, things that you're doing. Before that, we're actually going to have a PTS forum coming up too. For if you are in the PTS, so you'll be able to leave bug reports there, leave crash dumps there.
Yep.
We'll look for that soon. You should be getting emails about that very soon.
Probably next week.
Probably early next week, hopefully.
Yeah. This one's kind of funny. So NP Wannabe says, can you allow Visor's ability to show HP / armor stacks?
We can.
But that seems crazy OP, right? I mean, already seeing through walls is kind of like a...
I don't know if it's. I don't know if
they call it wall hack for a reason.
Well,
right?
yeah, but I don't know if it's crazy OP. I don't think that's something that I'd want to do.
Yeah.
But it's a perfectly valid idea to try.
Right.
I think that the way you should look at abilities is that every ability is such a threat that it can earn a kill.
Right.
And for you to not get killed by them, you have to understand how you play against them. So it's like there's certain champions you need to keep a distance to. There's certain champions that you're going to break away from. When they use their ability, all of that. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Oh, if he pops his piercing sight, within that 6-second window he has, and I know it's a little bit longer right now, that he's going to get a kill.
Yeah.
Right. It's just I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think that displaying the the like health and armor stack is as interesting or as intuitive, or like it, you know, it still causes you to like do a lot of reading while people are running around.
Yeah.
Which probably wouldn't be very fun.
Yeah, especially in team modes too. It's like, I mean, I've seen people use it in Sacrifice, and it's amazing because you can see where action is that you couldn't see otherwise. But like, other than in like Duel, it's like, or Deathmatch, like how is that useful information to your team? Also, you know what I mean?
Two things we are testing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I can say this.
Let's do it.
Because we're just testing stuff.
Yeah.
Two things we want to try out to find out if it's like worth doing is that what if you can also see like a mega health and heavy armor, so you know like when they're up, when they get taken. So that might be interesting. And the other thing we want to try is like what if we increase the rail damage while you're in piercing sight, kind of reinforcing the idea that hey, when you're in piercing sight, you should be using the rail gun. And that might be interesting too.
Yeah.
So these are the things we're trying, and then from there we find out like, okay, is it too OP or is it fun? Does it make the character more interesting?
Yeah.
And we'll go from there.
Nice.
Real quick, just because we're talking about Visor, this is a not a chat question. This is a Mortal Emperor question.
Yeah.
But for Visor, speaking of like power ups and things, are we going to make any tweaks to seeing people who have like the quad, say, or protection when you're in sight, or do you feel that that's not an issue?
Oh no, it's always been a part of like my design for him that when you have, it's not just visor. It's kind of like any time where you have an outline system where you can see the outlines to the walls, that they be colored for power ups.
Okay.
So another good example is like if you're in Sacrifice and you have a teammate pick up quad, rather than just seeing like that blue teammate through the wall, like you should see the magenta.
Yeah.
And know that that teammate has the quad.
Yeah.
Likewise for like protection and all that. So I would like to move to a direction where whenever they have a power up, you see that power up color.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's do a quick one
We
here.
got to do one more.
We're going to combine demons and
Yogg-Sothoth.
yeah. They basically are both asking, you know, when are you going to make changes to make the game more friendly, and when do we get a roadmap? I mean, I think a lot of what Adam already talked to a degree was about making the game more friendly, and the fact that instead of focusing on how do we tweak Duel, it's how do we make team modes where people can get in the game and not feel like they're doing something wrong, or they have an objective and they don't know the map, but where they can actually get their footing, right? Like I think a big focus on team play and on not like, you know, you versus the world is part of.
I think there's a lot of things there.
Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff in the works to like improve the experience of a new player, whether that's because they're not as good or just because like they don't know about the game, and
Right.
there's a lot to like teach them. So
Yeah.
you know, we want to like curate that experience a little bit better. Like
Yeah.
when you're like, hey, I'm new, like what do I do? What do I click?
Right.
Where do I go? You know, like right now we just kind of throw everything out there. Like there's a whole bunch of systems available to you from day one,
Yeah.
and we're doing a lot of stuff to kind of improve that. That's just the long haul.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really excited about all those changes, but yeah, I don't think we're not getting into that stuff for a few months, but
Sure.
yeah, we're getting there.
And for a
But
roadmap,
as far as the roadmap goes, I mean, we're putting one together. You know, we're trying to get them out. The idea is that we're trying to get them out quarterly. So things that you can expect coming up in the near term. They might not have fixed dates attached to them.
Yeah.
Some might not. But at least so you can expect, like, okay, you know, it's these next couple of months I can look forward to X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Definitely.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be our time here.
Yeah.
It's really cool hanging out, like in this studio on the
Yeah.
dev stream.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys.
Like you had us, you visited us for that one, and now we get to visit you on this one.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Fridays 1 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
And looking forward to the next dev stream too. Right after that, I think. Right.
Okay.
All right.
Definitely.
Cool. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.